So Colleen Murphy, thank you very much for coming and participating in not only our reading series, but also doing these interviews with us. We really appreciate that.
My pleasure.
2006 marked the beginning of a very important relationship when you came to be our first playwright in residence. And there are several types of residencies across this country. Many simply creative writing residencies that aren't specific to playwrights, but this one was specific to playwrights. It wasn't your first residency as a playwright, nor I think has it been your last. You've done other residencies since. I know you did a residency at Necessary Angel, which launched some of your early work. Beating Heart Cadaver came after that.
And The Piper.
And The Piper. And then after this one, it seemed like there was sort of an explosion of your work. I just wonder if you could talk a little bit about perhaps the advantages of residencies, the importance of playwright residencies, and how they support playwrights.
I think residencies work two ways. They force, in a good way, the writer, the playwright, to share and articulate and hopefully inspire their process. And in doing so, I actually think it gives confidence. I mean, it gave confidence to me. On the other end, the people that you meet, who you may never have seen before, in a place that you have never lived before, it's a kind of mixing of blood, and what they get from you, and they can pretty much get whatever they want in an ideal situation, as I think my residency was. I mean, I worked both in the film department and in the theater department, and it was great because I did a lot of things, met a lot of people. The relationships continue to this day with the playwrights, with the filmmakers, and with the professors. And it's an ongoing mutual infection in the best sense of the word. And confidence is gained on both ends. And I think that's incredibly important.
Well, I'd certainly have to second that. And what was interesting with your residency was that to some degree it also, it pulled you, on the one hand it concentrated your efforts with respect to playwriting, and there was lots, as you just pointed out, that came out of that. But you also went in other directions, so obviously while you were here you were able to work with a local playwright to adapt her work for screen and then direct her work for screen. Out in the Cold was a really important event for the Media Production and Studies department here. Could you talk a little bit about that from your perspective? That was quite a challenging piece of work that you did there.
Yes, it was. Well, it was based on Cheryl Jack's work from her play from Saskatoon about First Nations men being left out in the cold, if they were picked up by the police, and if they were drunk and they were driven out. Now, these things happened years ago. Who knows? Maybe they're still happening. I don't know. All I know is that for me, growing up in Northern Ontario, this was not an uncommon thing, and I thought, what an amazing idea to work with the department here, the media department with Sarah Abbott, and make this film, and work with the students in making the film. And we had our challenges, but we made the film, and the film is pretty good. It stands on its own.
It still has a huge, what shall we say, rep. This woman who came from Toronto and decided she was going to direct a show in the middle of the Saskatchewan winter outside.
It was cold. And we were out in the cold.
Yes.
But it was fabulous. I mean, it was a very challenging but fabulous shoot. I like that stuff, and I like those kind of challenges. And, I mean, sometimes you wonder, well, geez, maybe that film should have been made sooner. But, things coalesce when they coalesce. And sometimes it's coming in from a completely different environment with no no baggage, no pre-assumptions, enables one to bring stuff in that, and to kind of like, well, let's do it. There was a tremendous confidence about the fact that we could do this film, and we did it.
Yeah. Well, I know that there are still students or ex-students who remember the year in which Colleen Murphy came here to be playwright in residence. And they're not all in the theater department. There are still students who were in visual arts that year.
Oh, yes.
Who remember very much the exhibition sort of installation that you were involved with.
Is it Horses of Disaster?
Yeah, it was really, and you gave them the text for that installation.
Oh, that was fun.
Yeah.
That was exciting for me too, because I had never written something that would be what would manifest as visual, plastic installation, or even media installation. So that was pretty exciting, and I thought they did a fabulous job. It was haunting and interesting.
Yeah, it was very interesting. So, so the residency that you did here, it launched, or it was certainly a platform for you to, I mean, December Man was done, really produced while you were here. But then these other pieces that you began a number of pieces. I don't think your war piece was actually started when you were here, but a number of pieces, obviously the opera and Deliver Me, Birthday Boy. There were several pieces that came out of that residency that seemed to have been a real spurt. And as I was looking back at your career, it was interesting to me that it does seem to go in stages around these residencies as far as a big explosion of your theater work, and then in between there's the film work. But perhaps that's just the way things are produced. Perhaps you are working simultaneously, film and theater simultaneously, or have you tended to kind of alternate?
They go in chunks.
They go in chunks. It seemed like that.
Because I'm not prepared to do another film for about 4 years, but I have a film ready, camera ready to go, feature. But it just goes in chunks. I mean, after a while, I have to satisfy my visual, two-dimensional urges, my addictions. But often I write for different mediums at the same time, because I don't know why, I just do. Sometimes it's just a matter of time. You get a bit of money, you got to write because you don't know where the next chunk of money is going to come from.
Yeah. You've done other residencies since you were here.
I've done residency as a playwright in residence at Tapestry New Opera. I was Mabel Pugh Writer in residence at McMaster, and I'll be doing another residency this coming year at an Ontario University.
So that's...
And I think also at another theater in Ontario.
So that you've really done a lot of residencies, certainly since 2000.
Well, I'm a huge fan of. I think because of my experience, I think that university residences are extremely valuable to all concerned. They're an essential part of the learning environment, not only for the person who comes in, but for the people who are already there, for the students, for the professors, for the departments. And they need to be supported.
Well, you've not only done residencies, but you've also started doing a bit of teaching. So you were teaching at Ryerson.
I was teaching at Ryerson, yes.
Yeah, and so that kind of combination of both teaching and doing residencies, it's just an observation. It's tremendously important to have practicing artists like yourself come into the university environment for students to see that it is possible for people to pursue careers.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
essential.
Very important. Well, Colleen, thank you so much for coming and joining us and for this interview. And once again, thank you so much for coming to join us in 2006. It launched an important relationship. Certainly personally, I benefited from that relationship, and this university has benefited tremendously from having it.
And I too. Thank you.
Thank you.